Hey guys, let's get more news about Steelers, but first, don't forget to subscribe and leave your like. Steelers cornerback Joey Porter Jr.'s serial killer mentality is proving beneficial during a challenging stretch. Joey Porter Jr. thrives under pressure. He welcomes it, seeks it, needs it. Pittsburgh Steelers coach Mike Tomlin first saw this when Porter was a child running around the team facility while his father, Joey Porter Sr., worked as an assistant coach. There was something about how the younger Porter carried himself, a certain confidence, that made him stand out and hinted at the future he would have as a professional player. Tomlin described it as a serial killer's mentality, though what he means by that isn't as intense as it might sound. He's not running from the fight, he's running to the fight, Tomlin said. You better have a short memory at that position, and he's always had it. He was probably 9 or 10 when I met him, and he had it then. This attitude is one reason the Steelers were quick to select Porter with the first pick of the second round in the 2023 draft, marking a full-circle moment for a Pittsburgh native who knew the team's history and was ready to take on one of the most challenging positions. Porter has been clear about wanting to be known as an elite defender, and he's unafraid to take on tough assignments, fully aware that things won't always go his way. Recently, that's been the case. Porter has been targeted often by opposing quarterbacks who aim to use his natural aggressiveness against him. As a result, he's been penalized repeatedly, with the referee calling out number 24, defense on several occasions. In last Sunday's 44-38 win over Cincinnati, Porter was penalized 4 times, including 2 holding calls and 2 pass interference penalties, as he faced Bengals stars Ja'Marr Chase and T. Higgins. It wasn't ideal, but it also wasn't the end of the world. Porter stood at his locker after the game and answered all questions, doing the same again on Wednesday. Best Video Game Consoles Tomlin made it clear that the issues with Porter are technical, not mental. This is why neither Porter nor Tomlin are worried about one bad performance affecting the next, especially with the Steelers, 9-3, needing to stay focused when they face Jameis Winston and Cleveland, 3-9, this Sunday. I've just got to keep playing my game and don't let the penalties affect me, Porter said. When asked if that was easier said than done, Porter nodded. Definitely, he said. Playing DB is a hard position, but you got to have that mentality anyways. That's the world we live in, and I feel like I'm capable of doing that. Porter's father, Joey Porter Sr., was a fierce trash talker during his 13-year career as a linebacker, including 4 Pro Bowls and a Super Bowl win with the Steelers in 2005. He taught his son the importance of maintaining confidence, no matter what happened on the field. Needed to be done, Ben Roethlisberger appreciates Mike Tomlin's well-deserved message to George Pickens. After the Pittsburgh Steelers beat the Cincinnati Bengals, Mike Tomlin made it clear George Pickens needs to mature quickly. Pickens got called for 2 unnecessary penalties against the Bengals. That isn't terrible in a vacuum, but it just adds to the long list of issues he's created. Pickens' attitude has been a problem. Ben Roethlisberger was surprised and impressed with Tomlin's message to Pickens. I don't know that I remember him doing that to a receiver in a long time, like a number 1 like that, Roethlisberger said Tuesday on his podcast, Footballin' with Ben Roethlisberger. I thought that was big by him to do that. I think it needed to be done. You can't hurt your team like that. When you get into the postseason, every little penalty, all those things are going to hurt you. For Coach Tomlin to say that and make a big deal about it, I thought that was well done and well deserved. It was surprising to hear Tomlin give such a specific message to Pickens. Usually, he would just brush off any questions about a player's behavior, wanting to leave any message between them and him private. It was a sign that he was getting fed up with Pickens' immaturity. Roethlisberger played for Tomlin for 15 years, and in that time, the Steelers had their fair share of problematic players, especially at wide receiver. Antonio Brown is a perfect example. during his prime, finding a player more talented than Brown was tough. However, he had more than a couple of meltdowns on the field. Still, it wasn't often that Tomlin would send a public message to him. Part of that may be because of the experience Tomlin has gained over the years. He probably doesn't want to deal with a player with an attitude like Brown's again. Pickens is still young and incredibly gifted. He can be one of the best receivers in the NFL, but not if he keeps getting in his own way. Roethlisberger is also correct that those dumb penalties will come back to bite the Steelers in the playoffs. Those mistakes could be the difference between winning and losing. It's better to get out in front of it and nip that problem in the bud. If they continue to fester, Pickens' actions could become costly. We'll see how Pickens responds to Tomlin's message. None of this matters if he continues to act the same. He had a pretty big altercation with the Cleveland Browns a few weeks ago, too, so the stage is set for him to have issues this week. Hopefully, he will keep his composure and help power the Steelers to victory. I had to pray against the Steelers. Ravens CB Marlon Humphrey nearly crashed out against Pittsburgh O-line. Though Broderick Jones, Zach Frazier, and Mason McCormick were just kids at the height of the Pittsburgh Steelers and Baltimore Ravens rivalry a decade ago, they brought an old-school flair to Week 11's win. Turning back the clock, those three players went after the Ravens to the point where football became secondary. Setting the tone was primary. CB Marlon Humphrey was one of their targets, and he reflected on how intense that game got. I had to pray against the Steelers, Humphrey said on his popular Punchline with Marlon Humphrey podcast Thursday. Because I was finna crash out. I could not control myself. I could not control myself. For those above a certain age, crash out means to emotionally do something stupid. That saves anyone who goes to bed before 10 p.m. a Google search. Tempers flared in the first half and Humphrey found himself primarily mixing it up with Frazier and Jones. Punching above his weight class, Frazier first went after him early in the game. Jones buried him the next. Here's a cut-up of the fun. Flags were thrown on Jones and Humphrey for their skirmish. I've never had contact with that many O-linemen in my life, Humphrey said on his show. Not gonna lie. Despite all the festivities, only 2 players came away with fines from this game. Neither Humphrey nor any of the Steelers' O-linemen had lighter wallets. Instead, Ravens' Kyle Hamilton and Steelers' Minkah Fitzpatrick were tagged for taunting and unnecessary roughness, respectively. Hamilton jawed with a Steeler after one play while Fitzpatrick shoved OG Patrick McCree off the pile following LB Patrick Queen's forced fumble/recovery. Hamilton made a quip about the outcome. And I got fined, Hamilton said. Wild. You a dirty player though, Humphrey responded sarcastically. Even from a Steelers perspective, Hamilton has a point. Perhaps there was something he said, though it didn't rise to a penalty, but his actions didn't appear fine-worthy. A fine for Humphrey or the lineman would have made far more sense. Credit to Humphrey for being willing to rumble with the Steelers' big uglies. Pittsburgh's front five embraced the culture and what this game means. They were an intense bunch in another close victory. Round 2 will take place in Week 16. Officials may be quicker to calm things down knowing what's already taken place. And you fan? What do you think of the situation of Marlon Humphrey? Leave your opinion in the comments. And you fan? What do you think of the situation of Marlon Humphrey? Leave your opinion in the comments.